Hey guys, Keith Keller, Melbourne, Australia, and you're listening to another episode of Virtually Unlimited TV.com. 8 shows planned already coming up in the next few weeks, and we're really talking here about things you can do virtually in an environment where we can't really do everything we used to do in the last couple of years. We're still adjusting to the various lockdowns we're having around the world. Some of us are dealing with that better than others. And so this particular show is all about how to make better videos in that context. As you know, I love StreamYard, and we're using StreamYard today, and we're sending the file. I'm very proud. We're sending the file to a LinkedIn Live event. Hello to everyone on LinkedIn. We're sending it to YouTube, and we're sending it to Periscope. And here's me, one guy in Melbourne, Australia, sending this material all around the world. And I'm very, very excited about the possibilities of where this can go. We're joined today by John Wesselink in Toronto.
That's right.
We're joined today by John Wesselink in Toronto. He's a digital marketing strategist for Tweepsmap, my favorite site on the internet. I use it every single day. We can talk about that later in the show. So welcome to the show, John, and tell us a little bit about what you're doing there and why video is really the gun and how can we make them better.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Keith. I'm so excited to be here once again. Like with the start of the pandemic and the way we bring our media to everyone now, it's things have totally changed, and there's a lot you can do to improve your videos and just make your content more engaging in many ways, especially because we're always blocked by the screens now. So I'm excited to get into it.
Well, why don't we start with the first premise, and that is, how do you please the eyes? That's really the most important part of video, I'm guessing, what it looks like. What are some really key points that we can do to improve the visuals?
Yeah, for sure. So I think just like talking on Twitter, for example, like you always want to catch their attention, right? Everyone's on the go with social media. There's tons of messages flowing all over the place. So one of the major things you want to do is catch the eye, right? So as you can see here, the background that I have going on, I got a little bit of a pattern going. I got some red and some yellow. So just designing, I guess, your frame. Whatever the medium you're shooting on. Either it be like TikTok or maybe a live stream of sorts. You can see that right away there's some popping colors here. So
yeah, okay. Pick up
so,
on that. How did you get the colors, and just really pull apart why you've done that and what your deliberate strategy was there?
Yeah, for sure. So I actually have a lot of leeway here because I have some broken up walls. Basically, you're staring at a screen. You want to make 3D depth come into play. So instead of, let's say I had a straight white wall in the background, it wouldn't be too engaging, visually, right? So I come from a background of making videos, and I make tons of commercials for people, and I'm making a short film right now. So I really understand the importance of having visual depth. That's really how you bring someone in to your piece, to your video, or to your film. So like I said, like all the walls being broken up, having different things, different lines and geometric shapes. It gives the eye a little bit more to look at. You could bounce around, look around.
Yeah.
It's
What did
totally
you do with
important.
the colors? How did you get the colors?
Yeah, so like I just wanted to show you. You could do anything. I got a little lamp going there. This is it's kind of like the COVID setup. So everything's
Yeah.
hidden on the bottom, a little bit messy, but that's okay as long as the the composition is it's what's working. So you can get creative at home, right?
So the first thing is creating visual depth
That's right.
and
Yeah.
breaking up the colors. I went and bought a little lamp. I want to share this with people. I've got this really cool lamp that has 16 different presets. And you can see here that by just subtly changing the color, it slightly changes the interest level, only very slightly. But this little piece of tech cost me $40. It's just a little lamp that has 16 colored changes. And so I can make any color I want. I think the blue one probably, maybe the purple one, fits better. And it picks up on what you're saying there about creating
Yeah.
visual depth. But do you want to talk a little bit about the color wheel? And because this is such a fascinating discussion, and we before we started the show mentioned that Canva has a really, really good color wheel decoder, canva.com/color wheel, just unbelievable color wheel decoder. So can you explain what you mean by the color wheel and why is that important?
Yeah, for sure. So one of the key things hidden within cinematography to photography, anything visual, is the principles of graphic design. So you have contrast, you have balance, you have repetition. These are the principles of graphic design. So the color wheel essentially is an easy way for you to grab all the contrasting colors. Here's an example here. You have, red and the blue tones as well. You have the classic yellow and blue, so that's used in cinema a lot, from warm colors to cold colors. Having different feelings, but mainly, your goal here is to I would say, use the colors that represent you, your brand, um, um, and they do have feelings as well. But I guess back to the color wheel, we have the contrasting colors. It lets you, create something that, is nice. Like you could have tons of different colors, but if they're contrasting, they're pungent. They communicate things subconsciously. And that's why you should attach the colors to your brand. That's why brands use specific colors to communicate things. For example, blue is used a lot to convey trust, and maybe Facebook would try to convey trust in a way to communicate that. So
Yeah.
yeah, Canva's great for that. You pick your colors. I think the tool, right? You just click whatever color, and it automatically brings you to the opposite, and then gives you some
Yeah.
extra options. So
Well, let's pick up on that. Let's pick up on the idea of the color wheel. Well, it looks like we've lost you there, but I'll just continue and hopefully you'll get your sound back.
Yep.
I want to pick up on what you've said there about the color wheel. I'll just talk about this a bit more. There's a couple of ways that we can play the color wheel. There's the polar opposites, red and purple, blue and yellow, light blue and orange, say. You can polar opposites that really work good as a contrast color. But there's also a really cool way to use it as a triad. How do you use the triad? Let's bring that up and I'll just explain how maybe three colors in unison might work. How would you use that?
Yeah, if you can really get creative with it. Depends on the colors you're using to represent yourself or your brand or whatnot. But you can start with the primary colors. You got red, yellow, blue, and then the secondary ones as well. Or you can even bounce between the two. Really, just creating the visual contrast is like I said before, what's gonna just take people's attention. That's what you want, right? You want to bring them in to the visual. Once they're watching, then they're gonna listen. And then from there, they're going to hear your message, right?
Yeah, so, because what we're doing there is we're pleasing the eye.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, because of the democratization of content, because everyone can do it, it means that there is so much rubbish, right? Mm-hmm. There is so much content that's very subpar. And so it's worth taking a little bit of time to work out if there's simple ways, cost-effective ways to make your videos better, like just adding a colored background and a three-dimensional shape just instantly makes your video more interesting, doesn't it?
That's right.
Yeah. And so for me, I deliberately keep what I personally use in this context is that this is my home office, and that's a book I'm reading at the moment. And I just sort of have a very flat background, and I particularly use a site called XSplit. I love this hack. XSplit allows you to slightly unfocus the background. So you can see that it's actually at about 10% blur. So it slightly makes me jump forward. Mm-hmm. It's a bit of a hack. And I can actually take it up to all the way full blur, but that means that I get all these fuzzy lines around my head, and I don't particularly like that look. So that's the first part. How do you please the eye? The second part I really want to know is how do you please the ears? Why is that important, and how much does sound, especially music, add to the process?
Yeah, absolutely. Uh, picking music, very important. If you don't have, I guess, a budget, or, you don't subscribe to some sort of service that gets you all the music you can get. Because, if you make YouTube videos, you run into royalty issues all the time, and that's super annoying. You finish a video and then you can't use it in the end. Now, YouTube does give you a bunch of audio to use, but then again, everyone's using the same songs, so that's a tough one. So. I should put in the chat. There's I think it's freesound.org. I think that's the website. You could find tons of free music there, but picking the right music to represent whatever you're doing is so important. For example, I worked on a project about it's educational content about Canva. Because I'm Canadian, and because it was it's educational. It's kind of academic in a way. I used the same concept of contrast by putting some lo-fi hip hop in the background, and it
Yeah.
really just it jazzed it up. It made it cool, it made it fresh, and so you're learning about stuff, you're hearing facts left and right, but then you got like a nice beat bringing you through the video. So that's like another way to keep people in, right? You
Yeah.
catch them
Okay.
with the visuals, you bring them in. Like for example, once again, the visuals, you have the graphic design principles here. You could see that I kind of cut up my background into like a repetitive scheme, um, that might subconsciously convey that I'm balanced. But who knows?
Ah,
Maybe I'm not
yeah.
balanced,
Yes.
right? So
Okay. Yeah.
yeah, these are the things
Well,
you
look, the
get the
reason
attention. Yep,
the reason why that's so important is because I see so often, this happens to me as the host, people turn up to my show a minute before they go on, and please don't do this if you want to come on my show. Please do not do this. They turn up a minute before and they've spent no time cleaning up and they've spent no time doing the sound. So they turn up a minute before, and if they even get in on time, the background is messy. And this doesn't always happen, obviously, but sometimes it does. And then the sound is terrible. And as a host, I'm on the fly trying to fix things just as we're pushing the live button. So these little tricks that we're teaching you, they really do make a difference. So we love music, and we want you to sort of start adding music as a little pattern interrupt. Or I started, for instance, the show with this little piece of music. And that sets the scene. It's very gentle, it's very warm, and then it sets the scene. We could indeed have more music underneath it, and that's very important for more creative videos. But it's very, very interesting. And the third question, or the third session, I really want to talk about is, how do you please the audience? What there's a couple of principles here that you really pick up on. I did a little graphic for that. How do you please the audience? If you're a I want before I get you to answer that, I want to run through a couple of possible scenarios for what the audience might mean, because I think one of the key questions about how do you please the audience is, well, who are they? And
that's
I
right.
want to just pick up on a couple of things. One is, they could be sitting in a room watching the screen. It could be a cinema, could be a couch, could be an event, and they're watching a screen, and so they're a long way away, but they're in a person. That's one version. They could be a series of people on a screen watching each other. This is becoming increasingly common. Or people could just be watching your live stream on a laptop. And that indeed is also becoming increasingly common, especially as we see more and more events. Yeah. So I think one of the key principles, and correct me if I'm wrong, is knowing your audience. Yeah. How do you propose we do that?
Absolutely. I love that you brought up the context, that where they're going to be, soaking in the messages, because that's so important. This is why YouTube videos, for example, you should always have captions. And I think all media, all mediums, you should have captions because, for example, Twitter, I think 90% of people are on there on their phones. So
Yeah.
let's say they're browsing, and like you said, like let's say they're on the bus, right? It's noisy, they're browsing, they catch you, they see the visual thing and your frame, and then they're sucked in. But if you have no captions, they'll keep scrolling, right? So sometimes you can grab them in that way. They can catch onto the story really, really
Okay.
quick.
And
So
captions. Yeah.
that's yeah, super important. Same thing with the volume levels. I totally think that If you have your vocals at least double the volume of your background music, that's so essential. Like I said, they could have terrible headphones and they might not hear you, or the music's too loud, and these are all things you should consider. And then for yeah, once again, remember that they could be watching with no audio, and you'd be surprised how many people are they'll capture content without the audio. So definitely something to consider. Now, other
Let
things,
me pick up on what you're saying there. This is really
yeah, yeah,
important because I've been
yeah.
doing a lot of research on this. So Twitter, Periscope doesn't offer captions on videos, and StreamYard doesn't yet offer this as a generic service, which I've been pushing them for. But we do know that LinkedIn and YouTube and also Facebook offer captions as a default when you stream to their sites. So if indeed you want to watch this with captions, you can watch it on YouTube and you can watch it on LinkedIn, and the captions will come up automatically and you can listen to the whole show with the captions. That's already happening normally. But Twitter doesn't offer it, and Periscope doesn't offer it, and StreamYard doesn't do it as a service within their own offering. But it's very important, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yep, that's right. That's right. And as you use audio, since we're on that topic, for transitions, great way to split up your content. And using, like, let's say you bring up graphics, or you have titles come up for the most important stuff. If you zazz them up a bit with some audio, just the easy effects, and these are all, you can get them all online for free. It really improves the quality of
It
the overall
absolutely
content.
does. And
Yeah,
more
yeah,
importantly, the engageability, like because there's a lot of content online, lots and lots and lots of content. We're all a bit sort of burnt out by that. So I'm spending a lot of time. For instance, StreamYard allows you to add a little watermark, right? We've got a banner going on there. I've got a background.
that's
I
right.
spend a lot of time getting really cool videos, and I found this really cool video here. Time for music. We're talking about music. We're talking about a chance to have a little bit of a pattern interrupt. There's a video talking about exactly what we're talking about, and it just breaks it up, doesn't it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it just breaks it up, and it tells you exactly what it's about. But what would have been even better was to put music behind that. That would have even been more compelling, wouldn't it?
Yeah, for sure. You know, um, yeah,
So
it's
that's the first thing. You've got to know your audience. What else do you need to know about how to please the audience?
yeah, for sure. So this, talking about all the audio, it brings us into the narrative flow. The flow of information. With YouTube, this is super essential if you want to create long form content that's going to last a while. Is you not only have to engage them with their visuals, etc., but you have to keep them engaged, and this is retention. It's one of the major
Keeping them
things to.
engaged, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So YouTube gives you your retention analytics, and it allows you to see when people drop off. So one thing that I learned working for TweetsMap as their digital marketing strategist is that when I made an intro that was, it was short. It was only 10 seconds or so, but I lost probably like 30% of the audience, like right then and there. So I cut that down to 5 seconds. Get it done, and just get to the point. That's really how you please the audience. Like you said, it's
Okay.
fast-paced environment. You just want to give them the information. You want to keep them retained. You want to, give them the kicks, as what they call them, little kicks of emotion, right? This is the same sort of principle for sharing on social media is having those little kicks of emotion, or writing your copywriting, doing so that sparks some of their emotions. But doing
Yeah,
that on a repetitive sort of rhythm. So this is where we come back to the principles of graphic design. You have rhythm. It's kind of like, it's a spectacle, really, is what you're
it
creating.
is. It's a
You please
show.
the
It's a
eyes.
performance.
That's right. You please the ears. And if you do all that through the storyline as well, then you have something that people can't click away from, right? So this is the format of the narrative we're talking here. So
Yeah. I want to pick up on what you said there, a really, really important thing. I'm really interested in your thoughts on this because we've both done a lot of research on this. So I found myself when I did an intro that was, a countdown, because it was live, I needed the countdown to get into the flow of the show because I was new to it and I needed a couple of seconds just to get my head right. But I actually found that when I did a long countdown, I got less views and, more importantly, no replays because people just can't be bothered waiting through the 1 minute of the countdown. But you're also saying that with a longer intro, the same was the case. Even 10 seconds is too long for an intro to a video, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yep. And one thing that allowed me to succeed, if I may, is instead of using an intro altogether, on another channel, it's called Canada Explained. So it's, educational, Canadian.
Okay.
Instead of an intro, we just had what's the word? I just have it here. It's when you do a cliffhanger, that's it. So you
Oh,
got to
wow.
bring them in. That's right. So instead of an intro, have a cliffhanger. It could be as simple as, if you let's say you're writing a blog, for example, you say the most important thing, but you tease it in a way. It's like, how did we get here? This is something that you can get, and how do we get here? You want the audience to ask that question, right? So that's what we did with that channel. We said the most pungent fact of the story, and then we're like, my gosh, how does that happen, right? And then we play our little
It
jingle,
draws
and
them
that
in. They
jingle
want to
is
know more.
that's right, that's right. So cut the intro altogether if you really want to. That's when we played a little jingle, so it brings that feeling of suspense. So you get them hooked. You give them the intro, then like, wow, that show right there. They're already feeling it subconsciously, like they want to keep watching. So it's kind of a play that you're doing. The same. It's all social media uses these sort of kicks and ties
Yeah.
to your emotion, right? So right as they're hooked, you show them your logo, and then they're like, dang, that's that's a guy that I want to keep watching, and then you keep going, with the content. But most importantly, you don't stop there. You make sure that you still have stuff to give, because
Yeah.
really we're at the point where we have such a low attention span, and this is why you got to totally please the audience. And Netflix does this too, and I'll tell you about that very soon here. So you got to please the audience, you got to keep them in, but don't stop there. If, let's say, your content is on the decline, you got to at least structure your story, whatever the medium, whatever information, message you're doing. You want to at least structure it. So all the best parts, all the info they want to know, you're going to just keep them going. So for example, we have, how to please the eyes, the ears, and the audience. And we didn't give you all of the hot tips right away in this show today, right? We're kind of bringing you through,
Yeah.
and we're
Yeah.
doing it step by step. And that keeps you entertained. So that's the retention that we're talking
Yeah.
about
Well,
here.
let's pick up on this. You mentioned Netflix. Now we all know,
That's right.
for everyone that's got Netflix, there's a 3 second boom, boom. That's it. That's all there is.
That's right.
Just a 3 seconds. You're on Netflix now. What? But you're saying that they do it really well. Tell me exactly how you think they do it, because I love Netflix. I watch it every night, and they've hooked me. I've got it. It's $10 a month, and I'm a customer for life. And I can't
Exactly.
imagine changing out, because the content is so compelling, and they just, at the end of the show, they give you 3 other choices. But tell me what you think they're doing right.
Yeah, for sure. So, I guess a little bit of background on me. I'm coming from, I study film and communication and media. So, I was really interested on why their content is so enthralling. You just have to watch, you have to click, you have to binge. How do you spend 15 hours on one show at a time, right? That's crazy. So especially if we're saying right now that everyone has the lowest attention span that we've ever had, and
Yeah.
TikTok's on the rise, for example, 1 minute of pure content, on the go, refresh. So how do they do it, right? Well, first of all, they have their movies. Well, they have all these old movies, yeah, but they make these series, and they're not short, 22-minute episodes that's fit for TV. They're 44 minutes, so even there it's sort of long if you compare it to TikTok in that aspect. So I did the research here, and I was truly curious about it. So let me tell you right now. Um, what they do is they give you a kick, just like I've explained on YouTube. They kick you every 2 minutes. That's what I figured out. So bear with me here. Um, it's sort of amazing. What was the show that really showed me this? It was a recent one for sure because this is new information or like a new strategy per se. It's
Queen's
the
Gambit,
Queen's
mate.
Gambit. The
Queen's
Queen's
Gambit.
Gambit. That's so
What's
funny.
that?
Yep, that's right. So the Queen's Gambit, I was looking at it. They say 1 minute of film is one whole page of script. So
Okay.
if you look at the Queen's Gambit and you imagine what emotions they're trying to pull from you, they will give you a new kick, just like I've explained, every 2 minutes on the dot. So you can look at the playhead, and every 2 minutes on the dot, it'll give you something different, and they shuffle it. And so that is just like browsing TikTok for hours on end. It's the same thing. So instead of looking at,
Wow.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So this is what I figured out, and I'm like, that's crazy. So really, it's the same thing as scrolling. You don't like it, whatever. They can pull you in for 15 hours because every 2 minutes you're seeing something different, you're feeling something different. It's the same thing as social
I'm gonna
media.
watch that again because the Queen's Gambit
Yeah,
only went for 7 episodes, but it was the best show on television for the whole year. It broke all the records, right?
it was so
And
good. It was.
and that's why. Because
Yep.
and I'm guessing they would do this with editing, or would they do this picking up on what we're saying? Did they do it with visuals, or they do it with music, or both?
They do it with everything. Like we said, it's a spectacle, right? So they would switch it up. They don't want to give you humor over and over again, right? They'll give you some sadness, and then they'll tease you a bit and give you a little bit of what's the word? Um, they'll flash some sex, and then you're kind of enthralled there, and then they'll bring you in with some on here the oh, they'll give you some mystery or some suspense, for example. But they'll keep shuffling it back and forth. So it'll just be like five different major emotions: mystery, suspense, a little bit of humor, some sex, and then they'll just keep it going nonstop. And if you pay attention, truly, you'll see it. And they'll do that with the visuals as well. So that could be suspense with something you see. That could be suspense with something you hear. And same thing with your favorite actor. They'll get them if you're really into them, they'll show them doing something that shows them empowered or whatever, just all these different ways. But they truly stick to it. Every 2 minutes there's something on the go.
Yeah.
They don't have any long shots that don't mean much, and if it is long, it is because they're building suspense. Like they're always playing on your emotions every couple
Yeah.
minutes, and that's just how it is now because
Well,
truly,
let's pick up on this. Let's use
yeah,
this
yeah.
example. I mean, we had this is totally unrehearsed, but let's use this example. Queen's Gambit, my favorite
Mhm.
show of 2020. How did they please the eyes? How did they please the ears? And how did they please the audience? Let's play this out. How can we do this? Change every
Okay.
2 minutes. What? So this is really good. This is going to come in really handy for your studying cinema and your future career. We'll look back on this and we'll look at a movie you made and go, hey, look at that. We talked about that in 2021, and here you are standing up with there with an Oscar and 3 Grammys, 3 Emmys.
Oh, well,
Yeah. What
thank
do you
you.
call it? What do you call it in Canada? What's your award in Canada?
I think the Canadians try to go into the American stuff. We still have guilds and stuff here, but
Because
really the Grammys are
Schitt's
the
Creek won
Grammys.
a whole heap of awards, didn't it? What is
Right.
Schitt's Creek? It's a Canadian show. It won a
Yeah,
whole
that's
heap
right.
of awards. So anyway,
And
in the future, I
yeah.
can see you holding an award, and you'll be
Oh,
looking back to go, you know what? I talked about this in 2021 with my mate Keith in Australia. And so, how can people use this principle? Change every 2 minutes. Let's wrap
mhm,
it up with this idea. We change
for
every
sure.
2 minutes. We have a little bit of background lighting, a little bit of interest based on the color wheel, and so let's play it out how you would probably suggest people use the principles of Netflix
Mhm.
in the context of a video for them online.
For sure. I'm already trying to use it with Tweepsmap. I make their YouTube videos among other content I do. But this also comes from looking at the analytics and seeing how people drop off right away if you don't kind of give them what they want. If you give them too much at the start, then they're not going to sit through the end. But
Yeah.
really, it's about the medium that you're bringing the message through. So Netflix, they have a lot. They could do a lot more, but we're talking social media. You got to keep it short. That's probably essential. But if we're going to talk about all the principles we mentioned here, I would say you bring them in with the visuals. Okay, so here you have some repetition here. It's different, right? It's not something flat. I'm separated from the background, like you said, with like your blur. That's a great idea. Everyone should do that. Because it brings the person out, right? That's what you're doing there, Keith. So I have a white light here, as you can see. It's cutting me out from the red. I could
Yeah.
blend in with the red, right? So, anyways, you catch them right there. Now I've caught you with the depth. You're watching me. If I have subtitles, then you can jump in there and then start listening. And then once you start listening, you want to make sure that no matter where you start, where you're coming in, you're going to keep them going with these kicks is what
Yeah. Yeah.
YouTube
Wow.
community would be calling them. So that's what Netflix does. You just gotta imagine the emotion, right? So it's the same thing with copywriting for, excuse me, for social media. Same thing as writing a blog. You don't give them it all at once. You kind of bring them through, right? It's a journey, it's a story, and that's the idea. So either, if it depends on your brand, but if you could be funny, totally do it. Bring in jokes every once in a while. If you're informative, give them the facts at like a nice rate. It's kind of like you're dropping seeds, right?
Yeah.
You don't want to do it
Hansel and
all at
Gretel.
once. That's right. That's right.
It's
So
the Hansel and Gretel model, isn't it?
yeah, and you can do the same thing with giving outstanding examples. For me, I do very information heavy stuff for our audience for Tweeps Map. So I want to give them the best of my research, and do it in a way that'll keep them engaged, but also give them the examples that'll like show them what I'm learning in
Yeah.
in the span of 5 minutes, right? Because I spend hours researching, right? So that's what you want to do. So it depends on what you're doing. So either you make it funny, you make it suspenseful if you can do that. If you're informational or educational, you can make it give them the content in a way that it's sustainable. And then you can use contrast. Like for example, I had the educational Canada stuff contrasted with the chill hip hop, and I did some jazz music too. I'm talking audio here for background. It blends it so nicely because think of the audience, right? And we're trying to please the audience. So once again, as an example, Canada A explained with the EH, because Canada A,
Okay.
the audience is younger people, so we don't want to make it too information heavy, right? It's not too historical at the same time. So you give them some lo-fi hip hop or some nice jazz, and it's relaxing while they're getting
Yeah.
some education.
Yeah.
So this is the contrast. So
And
once you're pulled
did you
in,
find? Can I just ask whether or not
yeah, yeah,
different platforms lend themselves to different timings and different vibes? Like I'd imagine TikTok can be funny and fast, and it's a minute, yeah. But you
yeah,
could probably get
absolutely.
away with a 10-minute video on YouTube. You might be able to, and
Hmm.
on LinkedIn, because it's more informational, you might be able to get away with it for a couple more minutes. Have you done some stuff, and particularly with Twitter, which actually is limited to 2 minutes? Have you found the sweet spot for timing?
Absolutely. I haven't put it to the test, but I can tell you right away. TikTok, for example, you give them everything at once because they got 1 minute, and then that may be 10 seconds of the last portion of your video. You're plugging yourself. A lot of people say, oh, how did you get to that information? Well, it's because I follow me. That's what some people do. That's that. It's that call to action, right? Same
Yeah.
thing with Twitter. I would say keep it short, give the info right away. Think of once again the context, like you mentioned. How are they going to be watching the video? If they're on Twitter, they're going to be browsing. They're not going to, they'll see you. You can catch their attention, but you want to keep their attention. So keep it short, keep it quick, keep it like info dense. Depending on who you are, because that's gonna, like they're not going to sit there for a while, just like YouTube. Contrasted to YouTube, they're going to sit there for your 10 minutes. So then once again, LinkedIn, I would say, people are there, maybe during office hours. and they're professionals. So same thing, keep it short, keep it quick, and then maybe even more info dense because, you know, you think of the context, they're probably, you know, they're probably not sitting there browsing, right? They're sitting there, they have an objective to do. Maybe they're going to
Yeah.
go, you know, connect with someone. So if you catch their attention, you've got to think of where they are at, what are they thinking at that moment, and then, you know, try to get that retention, you know, in that context. So different from YouTube, from TikTok, from LinkedIn, Twitter. You know, these are
Which
the
is
things
why
you should
the
think about.
captions are so important. If you've managed
Absolutely.
to grab someone halfway through, you've got to keep them there, haven't you?
Mm-hmm.
Well, look, we've been chatting for half an hour now, and you've provided very, very cool information. Can you tell us a little bit about what your projects are coming forward and how we can contact you moving forward?
Absolutely. Sweet. So my handle there for Twitter is John Wesselink. That's my name. You know, same thing on most of my social media. I'm really just a student at the moment, but I have just a crazy curiosity to learn. I'm working for TweetsMap at the moment in my co-op. So I'm going to jump back into school, but then keep going with that for about a year. So you know, you can catch me there on my social media. There we go.
Yeah.
Now for my projects, you know, like I said, I'm studying communication and media. It's such a passion of mine, and I have doing a double major. So the other one is film. So I'd like to be in the film industry myself. So that's why I'm really looking at, you know, this extra rich media, and that's why Netflix was you know, so on my radar for how they're switching it up these days. So
Yeah.
I'm making a short film now. It's 24 minutes, so you know, maybe not too short, but I'm really putting it to the test of what I'm learning in school. And besides that, I'm making commercials for some clients. You know, like I'm you know, trying to start a company here. So
Yeah. Yeah.
like I said, I love to learn. I love to teach. So follow me. I'm gonna be, you know, sharing stuff about marketing or stuff that I'm doing in the moment. You know, it could be you know, advertising. Like I
Looks
said, I
like a lot.
think
Looks like I
we should
lost
keep
you
enough
there. Look,
themselves, right? It's good to share, like you do,
I
Keith, with
really,
this. Yeah,
well,
no
I
worries.
love what you're doing because me personally, I love the before and after story. I know that you'll be looking at this in 10 years going, I remember that. I remember talking about the Red Room and I remember talking about the Queen's Gambit. And that seems like such a long time ago now, but I know, and I love joining the dots. So you've set an intention here in 2021 that you're studying communication and film. You want to make movies. You will make movies. And I want to be able to look back in 5 years and go, look, here John came on the show and he talked all about it. He brought it all out to us. We've got some comments from Aileen. Aileen in Melbourne. Hello. Hi, guys. A bit late to the party, but great info of such a caught so far. So Aileen is a really good friend of mine. I keep getting a name wrong because I can never. I'm so hopeless at that. But she came on the show last week, and she makes great videos, really great videos on LinkedIn and also on Twitter and on these various platforms. And she's using a site called Lately. I don't know if you've heard of it. Lately AI. You heard of this one, John?
Interesting. I haven't. No. Is it
So
the same as StreamYard?
no, it's the thing that's really interesting about content is that we've made this is a very interesting point. We've made this video today, and it'll go 35, 40 minutes. But who's to say that people will watch the whole thing? I'm a bit of a superhero when it comes to video editing, and I love it. So I use a site called Filmora, and I go in and I pull apart the editing, a bit like Adobe Pro, right? Just for hacks. So it's a thing that works on your PC. You know, it's like Adobe Premiere Pro for dummies. And it's very simple to use, and it's $50 a year. But Aileen, sorry, Aileen. She called me Ken last week just to get me back. You know, Aileen said, look, I hate editing. So she uses a site called lately.ai. And what Lately does is you just punch, a bit like TweetsMap. You put the content in the funnel at the top, and it just spits out all these little bits, little babies.
Oh, amazing.
It's really cool. So our video went like 55 minutes, and so she puts it in the top, and it'll just spit out 2-minute versions of it. And she's working on it at the moment. But that's not dissimilar to what Tweepsmap does it? You sort of disseminate. It's a really good sort of synergy there. You disseminate content all throughout the day at various times of the day, don't you?
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
It's optimized for, your audience. So yeah, it's great.
Yeah, there it is. Sorry, it's Ken here. Sorry, I can't get your name right. But the point is that here we are talking about video. We did talk about the Queen's Gambit. We did talk about Netflix, and there is Aileen saying it's fantastic. Lately is fantastic, and she's going to have some videos coming out soon. So we talked about the Queen's Gambit and these really high-level profile shows that are on Netflix, and every 2 minutes they flip the switch, they change the emotion, they change the color, they edit hard so that you go straight away to another scene. It might be a flashback, or it might be a car crash, or it might be something. Downton Abbey also does this. The Downton Abbey series, they always flick to something really totally different. And I've now realized why they do that. I find it annoying, but bang, they cut to a car crash just where the guy and the girl are just about to kiss, and they cut to a car crash, right? They might think that keeps you engaged. I stopped watching it. But the point is that in this context that we're talking about social media videos for the businesses that want to make short pieces of content. So you've got a really cool site called Tweepsmap that disseminates information really throughout the day. So it's the coolest thing. I use it every day. I use it every day, and it really spreads your content out. So once you get your content right, once you get it a bit sort of moving there, you've really got a chance to disseminate it throughout the day. So I'm gonna watch this video again. And I'm going to start picking up on some of these tricks and start including them in my live streams, but also most importantly in my video editing. I might try doing some hard edits back to for pattern interrupts to change the emotion or change the color. And you'll see lately videos coming out shortly about that. So look, I really want to thank you for this time, and I'm going to send you this MP3. And this will go in sort of like your glory box, if you like, if that's what we call it now. Just put it in the list of achievements. You're still studying, so you've got this list of shows you're going on, but this will grow. The list of accomplishments will grow. Your shows will get better. You'll get more and more exciting projects, and I personally can't wait to see how your career progresses. It's very, very exciting.
Oh, thank you so much, Keith. It really means a lot. Yeah. And I say the same thing with this show as well. People, gatekeepers are a problem, and, normal broadcast is not what people want these days. So I can see the same thing for these live streams. People are going to be, seeking the content like they do Netflix.
Like, I heard this really great quote, and I don't know who said it, and I apologize for the person who wrote it, but I really think this is a very poignant case for today. Don't beg for a seat when you can build the table. We are building a table here. virtuallyunlimitedtv.com is a show which I'm running, and we're going to have all these great guests, and they'll all show up on YouTube and LinkedIn and Twitter, and we're moving the needle a little here. I think we're changing the dynamic. I'm not sitting on the couch waiting for Netflix to serve me up a show. I'm making the show. And I think if you can move towards making the table rather than begging for a seat, you really change the dynamic of how much you can contribute to the world, because that's what you and I are both about, aren't we? We want to make the world a better place. Sure, I'm comfortable here near the beach and I've paid off the house, but I want my content to be useful, to be educational, to be worthy, of sort of watching. It's not just fluff and bubble orangutans at the zoo with sunglasses on. That's the latest video that came out today on TikTok. 50,000 views in the first hour. It's funny, but you've watched it, right? You watch it once, you can't watch it again.
It's not sustainable.
It's not sustainable. And so that's not the sort of content I want. So I'm rambling a bit, but I'm going to go. Next week, we have another cool show about all the different networking sites and how they differ. We're going to talk about LinkedIn. We're going to talk about Twitter. We're going to talk about Instagram. We're going to talk about Facebook, the different use cases for those. Some people are even suggesting TikTok and even Snapchat are now social media networking sites. There's some case studies around that. So that's going to be next week. But today you've been listening to a show called How to Improve Your Videos Online. So thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you all next week.